Broadcasting from our studios at Leman Middle School in West Chicago, Illinois, this is Latinos in Action Podcast.
Latinos in Action Podcast is brought to you by LatinosInAction.org and Leman Values. Everybody in with Leman Values.
Hola, welcome to our very first Latinos in Action podcast. I am your hostess, Melanie Cos. Today we have a very special guest. She is part of the West Chicago Latino community. She is a member of the West Chicago District 33 Board of Education. She is a former West Chicago District 33 student, and she is running for state representative. Please welcome Ms. Karina Villa. Ms. Villa, thank you for being with us. You are la madrina of our show.
Thank you, Melanie. That's quite an honor. It's wonderful to be here, and thank you for choosing me for this podcast.
Of course. Let me ask you, so you grew up in West Chicago. Where did you go to school?
Yes, I'm a lifelong resident of West Chicago, and I went to school from kindergarten through 6th grade at Indian Knoll School. That was before we had 6th graders here at the middle school. Then I attended the West Chicago Middle School. That's what it was called before it turned into the West Chicago Junior High, I apologize, before it turned into a middle school. And then I graduated the high school in 1996.
Nice. Where are you originally from?
Originally born and raised here in West Chicago, but my mom is from Michoacán, un pequeño pueblo que se llama Bocaneo, cerca de Sinapecuaro. And my dad is from Durango. We don't have many people from Durango here in West Chicago, but he's from Santa Maria del Oro, Durango.
Nice. What did you want to be when you were a child?
Well, my mom says that she always knew I was going to be someone who helped others because when I was in elementary school at Indian Knoll, we used to have students with special needs in one of the classrooms. So I would, during my lunch periods, I would volunteer to go and work with some of these students with their reading and just in different ways. One student in particular I'll never forget was a little girl with Down syndrome, whose name was Becky. So we became good friends, and she ended up being in ballet with me, and it was wonderful because I got to see just that everyone brings unique talents to the table, even though there might be big differences. So I think it was from then that I realized that I was going to end up being something that would help others.
Who was your inspiration when you were young?
This is a great question. There's many people who inspired me, but I would always say that the two people that inspired me the most were my parents. You know, being immigrants into a country where there weren't many people who understood our culture and our race and our values. They were always just hard workers and wanted the best for my brother and for myself. And they actually helped out a lot of families in the community, and I really admired them. So I would say my parents.
Your parents, no. Are you proud to be a Latina?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like one of those things it's inseparable. It's hard to say like what part of me is just Karina the person and Karina the Latina. I think that our traditions are rich in terms of having grown up in the church. I go to St. Mary's, which maybe some of you go to St. Mary's as well. So just part of like the Catholic faith, along with obviously all our beautiful traditions of celebrations of parties and quinceañeras, but also the family values of coming together when anyone's in time of need, just being there for each other, taking care of our elders, watching out for our children, la música latina, que también me encanta. So all of those things are just reasons why I'm proud of being Latina.
That's great. Was it ever hard to grow up as a Latina?
So, like I mentioned, I went to school at Indian Knoll. I think that I was one of the only Latinas in my grade from kindergarten until 6th grade. My brother was a year older than me, so he was always in school with me as well. My brother was always kind of a protector, just like big brothers do, you know. So I think that he took a lot more of the brunt of that stigmatization of, this is a brown family or a Mexican family. I know he struggled quite a bit with it. My mom tells a story of one time he came home from school and it was winter and he was just a little kid and he loved hot chocolate, but she offered him hot chocolate and said, "Mijo, let's have some hot chocolate." And he's like, "No, I don't want it. I don't want that. I just want regular milk." She's like, Tony, why don't you want hot chocolate? Like, that doesn't make sense. You love hot chocolate. He's like, "I don't want to drink the chocolate milk because I don't want my skin to be brown." So like when my mom tells those stories, it's heartbreaking to me to know that my brother went through those things. I think I was much more sheltered, maybe because of the fact that he was around as my protector. But I never really experienced those things that my brother experienced.
Have you faced criticism for being a Latina?
So, when my students or my community members or other people who are Latinos get criticized, I feel as though I'm personally being criticized as well. No one has ever come up to me and said negative things to me personally, but as you're aware, at the national level, there has been some pretty intense negative comments made about Latino immigrants. And when you generalize about a community or about a group of people as being bad, that includes me, especially if you're criticizing, like if you're criticizing females, then I take it personally because I'm a female. So if you're criticizing Latinos or you're criticizing immigrants, then I take it personally because those are my parents. That's me. That's my blood. So I do take it as a personal attack when people are criticizing the Latino community.
What difference do you hope to make for our community?
I want to make a difference for all of you. That's why I do what I do. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. There's only like 32 days before our election, right? So I know that you all know that I'm running for office. So there's only 32 more days. And if people ask me, like, why did you decide to run? Or they ask, like, what was the catapult for you to decide to go into public office? It's simply because I want to make a difference for my community, starting here in West Chicago. I want all of you to be able to look up to someone and say, if Karina can do it, we can do it too. In fact, one of my former students I used to work here at the middle school, so one of my former students recently reached out. She's in her 20s now, and she used to be a little bit of a troublemaker. She kind of hung out with the wrong crowd. She would always say, "Miss V, I remember when you used to yell at me all the time." I'm like, "Yes, I remember." But she's doing great things now. But I remember, so she just recently, last week, reached out to me and she said, "Miss V, I saw you on television. There's a commercial on." And I just thought to myself, "Oh, there's Miss V, she's on TV." And she goes, and I thought to myself, I can do anything. Miss Via's on TV. I can do anything I want. And that's what I want. I want all of you to look and say, Karina went to school here in West Chicago. She worked in our town, and look at her now. She's doing that. That means we can do that, and we can do more than that. That's the difference that I'm hoping to make.
What would be your dream job?
My dream job? My dream job was... And I was very blessed to have achieved it. My dream job was working here at Leman Middle School. I was a school social worker in the district for 10 years. And I remember when I was an intern, I was still in college, I was interning here at the middle school. And I always thought, like, that's my dream job. I want to work at the middle school. And so I achieved it. I was able to call Mr. Tamayo colleague. We worked well together. I loved it. It was the highlight, I think, of my career. And if I could go back to one point in my career, it would be going back to working here at Leman Middle School, because it was my highlight of my career.
Why did you decide to be what you are now?
So what I am now, so I'm a school social worker, but I've taken a leave of absence. So I guess what I am now is a candidate for political office. And the reason that I decided to do that is because, things in the state of Illinois the last few years have been really awful. Things have been really difficult. And as a social worker, my job is to try to help families come up with resources or listen to them and try to find different ways to help them through their struggles. In the last 3 years, it's been really hard. So if my students ever were having any signs of anxiety or depression, my job is to try to find services for them. Now, unless my students are suicidal or homicidal, I can't find help for them. There's something wrong with that. There's a lot of other reasons as well, but I got to a point where I was tired of complaining. I was feeling helpless at work. I don't like feeling helpless. I'm a doer. I like getting things done. And so I got to a point where I said, I'm done complaining and I'm going to try to do something about it. So almost 2 years ago now, I decided that I would run for state representative.
Our theme this year is It Is Up to Me. What does this mean to you?
When I decided to run, people were like, well, there's such a mess in Springfield. It's such a complicated environment. Politics are dirty. Why don't you just keep doing what you're doing? Why would you want to go and do this? And I decided if everyone were to say that, if everyone were to say like, who cares and let someone else deal with it, there wouldn't be leaders that we could be proud of. So it was up to me to stand up and say, I can do this. I have the passion, I have the energy, and I have the support from my friends, family, and community. So it's up to me to stand up to do it. So I think that what I take away from this and what I would encourage all of you as students to do is to say, like, it is up to me. Like, I can make a difference. Each of you can make a difference. It's in each of you to make a change. And it's as simple as smiling and saying hi to someone in the hallway. It's as simple as someone who's different than you, going up to them and starting a conversation with them. Everything you do every day in your life, there's different things that you can do that really will matter to someone else, even if you never know the impact that you're going to have on them. I encourage each of you to look for ways to make someone's day a little bit better.
Thank you, Ms. Villa, for being with us today. Next time, can we be the first ones to interview you as a state representative?
I would be absolutely honored. Absolutely.
Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros. Hasta la próxima.
Muchas gracias a ustedes.
Broadcasting from our studios at Leman Middle School in West Chicago, Illinois, this was Latinos in Action Podcast.
Latinos in Action Podcast was brought to you by LatinosInAction.org and Leman Values. Everybody in with Leman Values.